Welcome to the Nonprofit Edge, a podcast series to promote purpose in practice. Each week, this webinar series features an extraordinary individual that provides valuable and impactful services, helping to transform the capabilities of their nonprofit clients. Join us as we explore a variety of topics, all vital to the success of nonprofit organizations. Learn and grow from the experience and expertise of our featured guests. Without further delay, let's introduce you to the host of the Nonprofit Edge podcast series, Chris Looney.
Welcome to the Nonprofit Edge podcast, where we explore timely, practical guidance for leaders and communicators in mission-driven work. Today's topic is critical for every nonprofit: what to do when bad things happen to good organizations, and how to communicate with clarity, with compassion, and with credibility. I'm excited to welcome Rebecca Hall, President and CEO of Idea Hall, a respected communications and branding agency known for guiding organizations through complex narratives, reputation challenges, strategic messaging, and everything in between. Rebecca is a thought leader who's been published in outlets like Forbes and Authority magazine, and a veteran in building trust through communication. Rebecca, we're so glad to have you with us. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much, Chris, for having me and for letting me share about a favorite topic of mine.
Yeah, a favorite topic.
Yeah.
I almost feel like you say that in jest, because who enjoys crisis communications? But at least someone out there like you is an expert in this and helping organizations through it, because it is such a challenge, and I'm so excited to tackle the topic today. But first, I know you don't work exclusively in the nonprofit world and sector, but it is a very strong piece of your firm's business. But why did you choose to work in communications and the nonprofit world to begin with?
Well, I think communications to me is leadership in action, and so that's what has always drawn me into the field. And communications always has more and more challenges and innovation happening, so it keeps my interest going, depending on what we're doing in digital marketing or in public relations, or what social channels are working today and why. It's a great field to continue to navigate and solve problems in, and that gets me excited. And why nonprofits? I was raised by a family that was very involved in church and in volunteerism. And so that was just always a value rooted in me, to leave the world a better place than where you found it. And over the years, I have just developed such a passion for helping mission-focused organizations, many of which are nonprofit, but more and more for-profit and organizations are also finding their mission in giving back.
Yeah. Well, I certainly agree with you about the evolution and fast-paced nature and never know what's going to happen elements of communications. It is a dynamic business, and one that just seems to change with lightning speed. I can't even believe the ways that we now communicate and how different that was from 30 years ago, where it was heavy into print, a lot of faxing, and that just is
That's how it started.
not our world now, that's for
Yes.
sure. So,
Yes.
I'm glad you can help keep us current on all these things. What experiences from your early career kind of shaped how you think about reputation and trust, which I think is really important as we think about the crisis stuff we're going to talk about?
Yeah. I mean, one of the most formative experiences I had early in my career was actually as a student at Chapman University. And I was there at a time when Jim Doty ascended into the presidency and created a new vision for the university.
Mm,
He took over a nearly bankrupt teachers and preachers college, and I watched him share a new vision and make it happen.
right,
And he ended up being our president for over 25 years.
right.
The two presidents who've come after him have continued in building the vision. And it wasn't, there were a lot of exciting things about new buildings and rankings, but really what powered all of that was a clear narrative. And so I learned very early on the power of communications in achieving greatness together. I've also been at the table, and I'm always so confidential about people, organizations, and people who go through hard times. And we all have probably experienced something that has been a big issue or even a crisis in an organization. And the more you see, the more you can connect the dots on what went well, what didn't go well, what would we do differently next time. And so I think not only my own personal experiences of guiding organizations through that, but we have an abundance of seasoned people here at Idea Hall, and we have developed a national network of people who specialize in crisis, so that when things do happen, what I know people want is they want a person they know they trust to be on the phone,
Yeah.
and sometimes to be in person and kind of hold the hand and assure that we're doing the right things in the right ways and that we've thought about all of our audiences and how things may impact them.
Yeah, that's so great. Well said. Who have been some of the important mentors or influences for you in the strategic communications world, in the crisis work that you've done? Who are some of those people, and what did they sort of provide you as you were kind of growing up into this?
Yeah.
Um,
So many people that I've worked with over the years, but I think the people I've learned a lot from those who are very values based in their decision making. Learn to pause and listen when things get tough, and test their own beliefs or assumptions.
mm,
Um, I have been, in the last number of years, we had the great opportunity of working with the Martin Luther King Jr. Center out of Atlanta on their
mhm,
Nonviolence 360, and studying his work, studying the MLK philosophy and 6 steps in social justice action has had a huge influence on not only doing the crisis work, but in how to do it, how to guide others in a world that feels very volatile and polarizing right now. Crisis is coming faster at us,
right.
more accusational at us. Um, and to ground ourselves and be able to have some systems and tools to help bring people back to our values, back to how we want to behave in crisis. I think a lot of us have seen it can really bring out the best in people. Sometimes it can bring out the worst in people. And so part of working through a big issue or crisis with any individual leader, group of leaders, or organization is to bring out the best in them,
Mm,
despite what may be happening, right? The goal is to bring out the best of them and have them at the end of the day when things resolve, hopefully reconcile, um, that they say, "Yeah, I'm proud of what we did. It may not have been easy, but I'm proud of what we did and how we did it."
mhm. That's wonderful. Well, I'm interested in kind of understanding what qualifies as crisis communications in a nonprofit context, because you just explain some things that are really hopeful outcomes and helpful ways to approach crisis communications. But how would I know if
Sure.
I'm needing to deal with crisis communications?
Yeah. So we interchange the words issues and crisis. And the difference between an issue and a crisis is the speed in which everything has to happen. Or a anticipating event might be an issue. It has actually happened is a crisis. So just I may interchange those words, but they are distinct, and we can talk. We're going to talk about both of those. Um, I would say an issue or crisis is any event that threatens trust, safety, or mission continuity in the
Hmm.
nonprofit world. Um, it does not need to be a scandal. It could be
Good, thank you.
simply a key leader is going to retire, but nobody expected it. It could be, um, we didn't hit our budget. But it also could be bad actors, um, potential crimes, um, like safety or injury issues.
Right.
It really runs the gamut. It could be a accusation that maybe in the future is proved not true, but while it's still an accusation, it can be an issue or crisis. Um, we live in a litigious world. If there's a lawsuit that is either directly or indirectly related to the nonprofit, those all tend to be issues or crises, leaning
Yeah,
towards
yeah.
crisis.
Well, it's just good because I had assumed it had to be salacious or something that was always a negative, not necessarily something that could ultimately be interpreted as a positive. It's just unexpected or
Yeah,
an emergent need of sorts. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
really helpful.
Yeah,
Um,
lots of funding. We're dealing with I mean, those are happening like at the federal level right now.
right,
How
of
do we
course.
deal with that? That could be on the border of crisis or issue, just depending on the other circumstances involved in the organization. Um, Nonprofits are strife with things because they exist to serve others, and if that's at risk in any way, it could be an issue or a crisis. And they're all made up of people, and sometimes people make mistakes. um, the
What?
sever- the severity of mistake can lead to an issue or crisis.
Yeah.
And many of them can be overcome.
Well, I
But we
hope
want to take
so.
the right steps. I think this is also the point where I need to say, uh, crisis communications is one piece of the puzzle. Often we need to also work with HR or legal counsel. Um, and
Yeah.
one mantra we have, that I know makes very common sense when we say it, but sometimes gets overlooked, is the legal strategy always has to lead the communication strategy. It
Amazing.
cannot go the other way around.
I had
Um,
no idea.
yes.
No, I'm serious. Like this exposes me for how unprepared I am. That I would have never even thought about that
Yeah. If
being the
there
right
are
strategy.
legal implications,
Yeah.
like in a lawsuit, for example, or a potential lawsuit, and we're already knowing that we need legal counsel, that has to come first. Um,
Sure.
and
Sure.
and it's great if we can all be at the table, because different attorneys have different risk thresholds. And so just also understanding the organizational or the attorney's risk thresholds. Some are a little more lenient and yes, go communicate. And others are, we don't want to communicate unless we have to communicate. And And
Yeah.
being able to push a little more and say, we need to communicate to our board, to our most
Yeah.
important stakeholders. Maybe we don't need to communicate to the whole world right now, but we need to shore up always our strongest supporters. That is where we go to first every time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Employees. Employees
I'm
are,
sure there's just such an extraordinary tension between my prediction lawyers who don't want you to say anything and sort of the executives or the board or whoever who might be saying, well, we have to um, not try to look like we're hiding anything or whatever the situation. So
yeah,
this is
that's right.
fascinating. So they're
But people
probably,
already know something, so we need to
yeah,
say
right.
something, right? And so,
Yeah.
yeah, that is the tension, and that is where a great leader or leadership team can get all the information and make the very best decision for their organization.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it demonstrates that there are probably a lot of misunderstandings
Yeah,
that nonprofit leaders have about a crisis response or
yeah,
crisis communications. That might be one of them that I shared, always let the legal, What are some of the other sort of misconceptions or misunderstandings?
yeah. I think a couple that I can name quickly. One is that silence buys time. That is that is something we all wish would come true, and it is just not true. Silence creates suspicion, and
Interesting. Thank you.
so we need to say something. It doesn't mean that we have to say everything, but we need
Mhm.
to acknowledge that we're on it and that we'll
We're
get.
aware that there are issues and we are,
We're collecting information, share the process. Um, you don't need to admit anything,
right.
because we just don't know yet. We have to, but to acknowledge that you're aware of something or
Hmm.
what is being called to action. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one is thinking that we'll just issue a statement and it'll go away. Um, one single statement does not solve anybody's problem because we're talking about relationships and trust. And so we want to ensure that if there is an active issue or crisis happening, that as we have more information, as we have decisions about what we're going to say and when we're going to say it, that we continue to listen, um, that we sometimes need to course correct and communicate about. We learned something new, and now we're going to course correct this. Um, that builds honesty. And people are really smart. Audiences are not appeased by a quick soundbite these days. Um, they do expect to be in the know because they have a stake in the organization, whether they're an employee or staff member, a board, a volunteer, or the people being served. And depending on how widespread the issues are, we have to acknowledge and have a line of communication to the people who already know. If we could keep that small, that's the best situation. But sometimes we cannot help it. There's been something emailed to everyone or out in the media. And that's when we have to acknowledge and provide updates through a process.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I understand that there's a difference between reactive communication and proactive preparation.
Yeah,
Can you talk to me a little bit about that distinction?
yeah. So, just the quick definition: reactive is that scramble. Oh, oh gosh, the fire alarm went off, and oh, what do we do?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
Proactive preparation is about knowing who does what and when, and that they also know that that's their role. And I know that sounds really simple, but these are things sometimes in the day-to-day of running a nonprofit and raising money and doing events and serving people. we forget to have those more strategic, harder conversations about who are our speakers, who else plays a role in bringing the information forward, um, who else needs to be involved, like HR or legal or a crisis comms team. Do you have in-house PR people capable of stepping out of their day-to-day to work just on this or
Mm.
prioritize this? So we want, we encourage organizations to have what we call a PACE model. PACE is who's the project owner, who's the approver, who contributes to this, and then who executes this, and have those conversations and put the names on and train people. Have everybody's number in a convenient place. And if you're the CEO, it's in your cell phone, because crisis will always strike when it's inconvenient. That's almost just guaranteed.
Yeah. Well, I'm sensing that there is this checklist. Is this the checklist that you referenced to me earlier, the crisis preparation checklist, or
Yeah, I
I know
have
you?
I have a checklist that's more thorough.
Okay.
I would love to offer it to anyone out there.
How? Yeah,
And
how do people get it?
I will just say, if you want to email me, I'm
Yeah,
Rebecca@ideahall.com. I can also, Chris, send you a link.
yeah.
So then
We can post that in
post
the
it and download. Yep, yep.
description of the podcast. So that would be great. Well, what does the checklist
So
help an organization do?
yeah, so there's 7 categories, and I'll walk you through them quickly. And then there's like descriptions, so how where you check gives you points, and at the end it tells you how ready you are.
Amazing. What a
So
tool.
the first section is about awareness. Can you spot the signs of an issue or crisis early? The second is leadership and decision making. Who owns the call? Who owns the shots and when? Who calls the shots
Mhm.
and when?
Mhm.
Um, Number 3 is communications protocols. So that's control of the message. Don't let the message control you. In our industry, or in our practice of crisis comms, we always want to be proactive. We want to be offensive, not play defense. And
Mhm.
often a crisis can feel like you're on the defense. And so how can we use communications to get ourselves back in an offensive position and in
Great.
control? Um, Number 4 is internal coordination and employee readiness. So are your people, your people are your first line of defense. If they all are talking to people every single day, and most people won't call the CEO when there's an issue, they'll call their friend. And are they prepared to share the right message and the right information? And that's where voids create scandal. Um, it's human nature. Number 5, external communications and stakeholder management. How do we reinsure, inform, and build trust under pressure? And maybe not build trust, but reinforce trust. And the great thing about crisis is, when done well, you can come out with even stronger relationships and support.
Okay. Okay.
And that is the goal. The number 6 is about tools and resources. What things do we need to be able to rapidly respond? And then last is recovery and reputation rebuilding. Given any kind of situation, how do we respond after the storm and return or rise up from what has happened?
Love it. That's so great. Bravo. Um, so we'll make sure that we provide that resource, which seems like a great tool for any nonprofit leader to have. And now I want to get into the practical. Let's
Mhm.
say there's some unexpected negative event that happens within a nonprofit. What just generically, what would be the advice that you would provide to those leaders, for the first 24 to 48 hours after that event occurs?
I am not known for my humor, but I am going to use something that maybe if you're in my generation, is something you can recall. This is from the Ice Ice Baby. Stop, collaborate, and listen.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
and
I
and
like it.
it's kind of a joke, but it's also very true. Um, Literally, stop, listen, pull together the people who can help solve this problem for you.
Yeah,
Um, we want to gather facts. We don't want to gather rumors. We might need
yeah,
to know what
maybe.
they are to get down to the facts.
Right.
Um, Call your crisis comms person, whether they're in-house or an agency. Get them in early.
Yeah.
Call your legal counsel if needed. Get your
Hmm.
HR leader involved early. These are the people who should be around the table with the executive team. Um, Second, align on messaging immediately. Mixed messages create more confusion and reduce your credibility.
Yeah.
And putting it in my own way is not acceptable in a crisis. We have to create certainty and calm people. And even if it's really bad news, the way in which we select our words and what we communicate and what promises we make to follow up, which is often the first communication, is acknowledgement, and how or when we will follow up, has to be fulfilled on. Um,
Yeah.
and then third, shore up your strongest stakeholders. So depending on the crisis, it could be your board, could be your staff, could be a
Hmm.
combination of those things. Those are often where we look first, but it could be, um, certain donors or, people at a particular facility or location.
Hmm.
So go to your strengths first. They're the ones who will link arm in arm with you to get through something. I was just going to kind of sum up, guiding all of that:
Yeah.
speed, but more importantly, accuracy.
Hmm.
And remember that silence is rarely neutral. Silence is not our friend.
Yeah,
And
yeah. No, that's good. And what did you say earlier about silence? It creates suspicion or something like that?
that's it. It does. It creates suspicion. People want to fill the void because they want to reconcile what's happening in their brain, and their brain is looking for the logic of why
Sure.
something happened or why it might have happened or what if, right? Our We're just wired that way to solve problems, and so it is a human instinct to fill in the blanks, and often those blanks will create, you know, at least the people I've interacted with, a lot of them have grand imaginations, and
And some of them are nefarious.
yes, yes, Hollywood has impacted us all in these wild ideas, and
Yeah.
so the
A lot of good
sooner
screenwriters out there in their own mind.
we can put those imaginations to rest.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
is really one of the first
Wow.
jobs we have to do.
I saw it. I saw it in Emily in Paris, so it must be what's happening here or
That's
something like
right.
that.
That's right. Yeah, I've got this conspiracy theory because I saw it in a show. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
When it comes
common.
to, yeah, I'm sure it is. When it comes to crisis communications, strange question, but out of 10 times, how many times is it because of some person, some act of an individual that, is not kind of created outside of the organization. It's not something that's external brought in. It's something internal that's created the emergency. Is it more than five? Is it more than
I
eight?
I have never put a number to it, but I will say it's frequent.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It seemed
frequent.
to me that that would be my guess that, I would have said like 9 times out of 10, every time there's a crisis happening within an organization, it's not because of some outside influence, it's because of some act of an individual or group of individuals from within, right? So
Yeah,
anyway.
we call it the bad actor, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
It's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
maybe they intended well, but
For
had
sure.
a bad consequence, or they didn't think anybody would find out. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
or some people just they um they have they have issues. They're humans.
Oh, right. Of course, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Not to pass judgment, but sometimes they do illegal actions, and
Right.
it's
Or just stupid things, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it all.
Yeah. No, no, no. I mean, I think
And right when I say that, I have to knock on wood because maybe there's like that new thing that we're all going to say, really? Wow.
right.
Okay. This is our
Right.
the card we got played today. So,
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, you had mentioned stakeholders, and clearly leaders need to identify who those stakeholders are so that they can all receive kind of curated, tailored, customized attention and messaging, right? But generally speaking, is there an approach that you think about when it comes to staff versus board? Because those are two obviously critical stakeholders that need information um, more readily, maybe, than the broader community who might be completely ignorant of what's going on.
sure. So, rule of thumb is never surprise a board member. So, I kind of always bring that along in the council of never surprise a board member, um, especially if there's risk involved, if there could be a lawsuit, if there could be a loss of donations, if there could be something that comes back to them in the community. Um, in terms of staff, I think depending, this is where the discernment really has to come in, is what do they need to know or do they already know? And different organizations have different cultures. Some are very, very transparent, which is wonderful, but it also means a lot more communication to make sure the staff knows what it is, what it isn't, the risk involved. We do want this out. We do not want this out. What is confidential? And so I think that the goal is there isn't one way to go here. It really, you have to pull everything into context and analyze what are the risks and who knows and who needs to know. And that's just critical thinking and discernment about deciding who knows what and when. Um,
Mhm.
we're in a world where people expect to know a lot of things. They feel very invested in their organizations, especially in a nonprofit cause. And so I think there's also just weighing, um, do they need to know now, or can we tell them after we've solved it? And what are the risks of waiting? Can something be truly kept a secret? There aren't very many anymore. Um,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
just critical thinking and discernment in each situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in what's particularly important to think about or to consider when we're talking about a crisis where there's potentially enormous public scrutiny or huge reputational risk?
I'm sorry. Could you ask that one more time?
Yeah. Yeah. So there's so often in crisis communications the challenge of the organization facing huge sort of public scrutiny or enormous reputational risk.
Yeah.
And does that create a different type of response, or is there anything special when it comes to that elevated risk.
Yeah, I mean, we do live in a time where there's a lot of change. There's a lot of change, and there's more dramatic polarization on issues or politics, and so many nonprofits can easily be drug into those. I think we come back to what are our values and making decisions and communicating about why decisions are made based on those values. And there's some great examples out in the world today. I think of Harvard standing up for its values against maybe what the Trump administration was asking of them, or saying that they would withhold money from. Now, we can all say also that Harvard's in a unique position to do that. But I think, we can look at examples of when those values really come and to stand up for yourselves. Other organizations, I think, can do that. It takes strong leadership and a very grounded leader to use the values. But even in very simple crisis or transition or new visions, grounding the communications in how things were decided based on your values is one of the most powerful ways to attract the people who believe what you believe.
Yeah.
Back to the old Simon Sinek, what is your why? And you want to do work, you want to attract donors and board members and volunteers that believe what you believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, I think the more serious the issue, the potential, reputational risk or publicity risk, the more appropriate it is to circle back to those values and remind people what the organization is actually about and whether that situation is contrary or not. Whatever the outcomes are, we're going to hold steadfast to those
That's right.
values that are so important.
Yeah. And so being prepared, whether it's good news and you're using your values to share it, or it's not so good news, using your values to share it, having a strong set of actionable values that your board agrees to, that your leadership agrees to, that your team agrees to,
Yeah.
that is the North Star. That is one of the most important things to be prepared with.
Yeah. Yeah. So these things are bound to happen, less frequently if you're lucky or good, I suppose. But is this kind of like an earthquake drill in California or a tutor drill that they have in schools? I mean, is this something that you have to plan for and prepare for and practice and review every once in a while? How do you think about it that way? Or
That
do
is
you?
exactly right, Chris. The best organizations do revisit this, even if there's no crisis, and continue to update who are the decision makers, who are the spokespersons. Are our
Yeah.
values still serving us the way they were 5 years ago?
Yeah.
They do evolve over time, or what they mean, or the emphasis of a value over time can be updated in a brand or in how you hire team members or hold them accountable. I think those are really basic things. I do really love when an organization has a crisis playbook ready. They have already thought through the 5 or 10 likely crises that could happen.
Oh man, amazing.
And there's a lot a lot of great work can go into what would we do if this happens. And this is getting into like future proofing, right? What if we have a data breach? What if somebody has a heart attack at our gala? What if
My gosh, right.
have a bad actor in our organization? What if our leader needs to suddenly retire or take a medical leave? They're not always like bad, scary things, they're reality. And I think just walking through some of those scenarios, writing down the steps, preparing in advance some messaging, nothing gets used out of the book like without review, without context, but you've already walked through these things. You've met as a team, you know what to do. So when you need to do it, you know exactly. Pull out the playbook, or I go online and get my playbook, and
Yeah.
we know who's on first. We know who's in the meeting. We know these scenarios. It's sort of like this, but kind of like this. You can move so much faster if you've
Right.
put it that way. And that's our
Amazing.
recommendation to get ready. And then
Yeah.
some industries are just prone to have more crises issues.
Aren't they? Right.
And if you're one of those, whether you have an in-house group or you have an external agency like ours, making sure that you're already ready and the people are on call. And
Yeah.
again, crisis never happens when it's convenient. It's
Yeah.
always going to happen on that Friday night or when you're traveling or in the middle of your big fundraising event. Um, it's not going to wait until you have an
Yeah.
open day on your schedule.
Right.
Um,
Right. Right. And
so
it's not something that only affects small organizations or only affects the big organizations. Every organization of every size in every sector
yeah,
has a need for this preparation.
that's what we say. If you work with people, you need to be
Right.
prepared.
Right.
Um,
Right.
the other thing, oh, I just lost it. Oh,
If
I
you work
lost
with
it.
people, right? If you work
Yeah,
with people, this is bound to happen. So
it is.
you certainly need to be prepared in those circumstances for whatever might come about.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, let's ask just two final questions
Yep.
that I think can help the audience move forward productively. Although the advice that you've provided has been more than sufficient to help these leaders navigate crisis communication. But in your view, how does effective communication strengthen trust with donors, volunteers, and communities? What's the magic there?
I, I mean, this goes to all relationships. Good communications equals good relationship. Great communications, great relationships.
Okay,
And communications is not just the words, it's the actions. Um,
good.
it's not beautiful writing and a you know, pretty graphics. It has to be followed up with the true actions. Um, but if we emphasize relationships, the communications and how we communicate, I mean, that will enhance the trust.
A million times for
Yeah.
sure.
In
And
an AI driven world, um, trust is a premium, and
mhm,
the Warren Buffett said it extremely well. Um, I think he said it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. Um,
right.
and and our goal is to not allow that to happen, but to even strengthen it. Because when you go through tough times or a challenge, and you are brave enough to engage your best supporters, they will love you for it. They will trust you even more.
Hmm.
The goal is to come out of any crisis stronger, better, rise up.
Yeah, that's amazing. We should end there, but I do have one more question.
Oh,
All
okay.
right. And that's okay. The last question I would ask for this session is what are the trends in crisis communications that maybe nonprofit leaders should be watching out for next?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and it's probably instinctual to all of our nonprofit leaders, is the speed of misinformation is accelerating.
Okay, good. Yeah,
And
yeah.
social media can amplify half-truths, conspiracy theories. I think, in an organization of any size, having media monitoring, social media monitoring, to know what is being said out there and how your brand is being used, so that you can interfere immediately if needed. Just leaving it out there, it'll snowball and
Yeah.
grow.
Yeah. Again,
Really, you can curtail a crisis by using media monitoring, social media monitoring, whether you do it yourself or have an agency do it for you. Like getting that heads up fast can prevent the crisis.
amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing. Good
that's the
advice.
biggest thing. Yeah.
Well, well, thank you, Rebecca. This has just been an extraordinarily practical conversation about what nonprofit leaders really need to know about crisis communications and handling tough moments with confidence. To our listeners, I certainly hope that you've enjoyed today's episode and today's conversation. If you did, make sure to like and subscribe so you can jump back into future episodes. Share it with others that you know, and also visit our two other podcasts, Lead for Good and Mastering Fundraising. On all of these, we meet with extraordinary leaders to really drill into their expertise, learn from them so we can grow as leaders. So for today, thanks again for joining, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye, all.
Thank you for joining us for the Nonprofit Edge, a podcast series to promote purpose in practice. We hope you've enjoyed this presentation and learned some important lessons from our featured expert. We always want our content to be informative and to position nonprofit leaders to succeed. Please join us again for our next podcast. In the meantime, we wish you all the best and encourage you to learn more about Fulcrum Nonprofit Leadership by visiting our website at www.fulcrumleader.com.